What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Trainer Feed. Today, we're going to talk about a couple of things: activities of daily living, New Year's resolutions, and the effectiveness of it. And then David's going to give us a special talk about O-lifting and preparedness for O-lifting and warm-up strategies, things like that. And then I also think powerlifting, you're going to touch up on that too, right?
A little bit. What's Jacques going to talk about?
I'm going to talk
Resolution
about
thing.
New Year's resolutions, the reality behind them, and the practicality.
You got a month to do it. Then it's over.
So let's start with that, because it's probably, even though this episode might drop a little bit later in the month, people will still be in January. What is that?
So I didn't. Okay, so hold on. Sorry. Side note: I didn't have a bottle opener. I thought I did. It's a bottle of wine.
Oh.
So I don't have a bottle opener. I thought I did. So I got a screwdriver, and I just screwed it into the cork and got the hammer.
Oh my God. Oh, I see. That's one way to do it.
Did you at least film it?
No.
That's
It was
one
very
way.
good though. I recommend this.
The bottle opener or the wine?
Both.
David's got he's
Man,
finally got his
if you
$1 million.
Go ahead. If you're thirsty enough, you're gonna figure out a way to get into that bottle.
Yeah.
Listen, I bought it to drink it, and I got home last night, and I'm like, "Fuck, I don't have a bottle opener."
Mhm.
And first
So
thing I did
as-
was, Google.
You,
Like, get a screwdriver.
Oh
you were
my
like,
God.
I would have just went downstairs and got a little bottle opener. Most liquor stores sell it. Well,
I
probably
assume the liquor store sells it. Yeah.
you could have just went right back. Like, yo,
David
some.
can neither deny or confirm that though, right? Because you didn't go there
What?
to check. That they sell them because you went straight to Google.
What liquor store wouldn't sell a bottle opener?
I'm just being funny. You didn't take the trouble
You're
to
not
go
being
check.
funny, Jacques, or
Yes,
else I
I
would have
am.
laughed.
You didn't even go. You're like, you know what? I got
Yep.
my own method of dealing with this.
Now, the other thing is you got to check out those bodegas. You're going to
Yeah.
like a real hood bodega when they got like a little bottle opener right there on the side. They just
I
let
have
you,
a deli, a
outlet.
bodega, and a liquor store within 30 seconds walking.
And if it wasn't New York City, probably a gun store in between too.
DC, let's go.
Holy smokes.
Oh man. Can I do a side note real quick? One of my buddies, I'm training him virtually, but he's been single for a while, and he shows me screenshots of some of the conversations, but some of them are, I'd say, more conservative. But he screws with them, and he says, and he plays like on the jokes of the vaccine and stuff, and then he'll one day, I mean, I guess it's not funny, but one of them was a Trump supporter, and he joked, "Yeah, I just got back from the riot in the Capitol."
Wait, what are
And
you talking about?
like,
What was he? Who was he talking to?
he's talking to people on these dating apps, but he's playing
okay.
with them, saying that he's a major. I
One
don't
of my
know.
clients
It's
yesterday
very controversial.
Yeah, that's a little controversial.
One of my clients came in late yesterday, and he was like, "Sorry, David, I just got back from DC." I'm like, "You son of a bitch."
I know he can't. I won't go into more detail because it's podcast and our political podcast, but he into more detail on that. But
Yeah, we're trying to stray away from the political stuff, but
you're right.
I think that it's kind of so crazy that it's almost to the point where you need to say something, just because it's like if a hurricane came through and was like devouring half of the country or something like that. It's like you got to kind of talk about that hurricane or tropical storm or whatever.
Yeah,
But-
it's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of damage to it and all that stuff.
2020 couldn't be beaten. 2021, hold my beer kind of thing. Like just watch me. It's just,
You've been waiting to drop that one.
I haven't, but I just thought of it, so I thought, hey, why not?
Nah, you were waiting to drop that bar.
Nah.
All right, let's talk about New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolutions. Yeah.
So-
So
Wait, before you start, I want to, because I read the statistic and I was like, I don't know if these guys know it. So New Year's resolutions start January 1st. On average, how long do you think it takes people to drop that New Year's resolution?
By February.
1 week.
Close, in between. It's January 12th.
Wow.
January 12th,
12 days.
over like 80% of people already dropped their New Year's resolution. And 8% of people, only 8% of people actually complete and follow through with it.
How much? Sorry, you said 8.
8% of people actually follow through with their New Year's resolutions.
Okay, so hearing that it's only 8% that fall through, and we're assuming they fall through till the end of the year. That's the assumption. It's the full year thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and then 80% drop out after 12 days. And let's also assume that
Wait,
most people.
let me backtrack. So I did fuck that up. So January 12th, most people stop. 80% on average finish, or 80% of people fail, and then 8% within the year.
Yeah, so 8%,
but
yeah,
not 80% by January 12th. That was my mistake.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right,
people.
I misunderstood that. So that's what I thought you said.
Nah, I fucked up.
Well, look, I think first of all, we talk a lot about the continuum of training and nutrition habits, right, old man? Just because it was the same with training programs, right? Where just because you finish a program, it doesn't mean what you're following it up with is completely unrelated or completely irrelevant. There's always some line of relation to the progressions and if it needed regression. So I know that myself, prior to being in the fitness industry, I thought, it's the new year. Sorry to say, but I frankly couldn't give a fuck if it's a new year. I'm going to have the same mental state, the same approach as I did in 2020 with habits and eating and this. Yes, it is definitely an opportunity to think, okay, clean slate. But I just think the biggest issue or where people struggle is it's too much. They set themselves up to fail by setting up these standards or these goals that are a little unrealistic, or they don't take small bites. They take huge chunks and say, I want to drop, and I love the enthusiasm. I want to drop 50 pounds this year. Okay. So when you put that into context, what's going to change? Oh, I'll just do this. And then when you start to have the conversations of what is it you'll do differently, or how is this, you can sense some resistance sometimes in those conversations. And I'll be the first to say, I'm not saying your goal isn't achievable, but something has to give somewhat. And I spoke to some clients about their goals this year as well. And some needed a bit more progress prior or some regressions prior to that. But I love the fact we definitely have used the opportunity to think, okay, what we're going to work on, what's this and that. But I think kind of before I ramble on and go on a tangent, I just think the biggest area of opportunity is making it realistic. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think A, you were about to ramble on, and then B,
I was, so I held back.
And then B, I think that's true. You got to make it realistic. And you did have a point in there where you spoke a little bit about habits, and it is about adjusting and creating habits that are sustainable, and not saying that this is unique to the year, because I think that that's a little bit, depending on what goal you have, that might be unrealistic in and of itself. Saying you're going to accomplish something within 365 days. Some goals take a lot longer than that to achieve. So I'll let David chip in, but yeah, I was just going to say habits and sustainability is probably the best way, and it takes longer for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing with, I think, gym resolutions is, first, some people say they want to go to the gym and they don't even have a membership anywhere, and that's, I'm not saying you need a gym to work out or anything, but if that's something that you really think is what you need, then there's going to be a point where you have to look around and say, okay, I'm going to join this place and I'm going to go. Some people use the opportunity to get a personal trainer. Some people use this opportunity to, look up their own programs online, get online coaches. And like y'all said, it has to do with small attainable goals that you could do progressively, rather than being like, I'm going to lose this amount of weight, or I'm going to do this year. It could help to say, okay, for the month of January, this is what I want to work on. Or for the month of February, this is it. Have a little organize it like that. Or just be mindful about things that maybe you didn't enjoy doing the year prior. For this, you don't have to really set a big resolution. Maybe just set yourself a goal for a different, maybe not even a different mindset, but just to be aware of what's something that you personally didn't like, let's say, in the year prior, and just try to be mindful of it for the next year.
Touching on what David said, I do think that it provides us an opportunity to reflect each year. So if there was a positive from having New Year's resolutions, or the idea or the concept of New Year's resolutions, is that it allows you to reflect on the year, and people spend a little bit of time there, kind of throw a lot of negative kind of like feedback into themselves and just say, I'm going to propel myself to do it this year. But instead, I think focusing on what you did right, and then learning how to motivate yourself or create sustainable habits within your lifestyle is probably the biggest takeaway. People forget that life is a lifelong journey. And I say that, and it sounds a little bit silly, but you don't really know yourself. You know yourself to a certain extent, but you don't really know yourself, right? Each point in your life, you're like, nah, I knew myself, right? How many of us thought we knew ourselves at like 15 or 16 or something like that? He's like, yeah, I know who I'm going to be. I know what I'm going to do. But that's not the case. And obviously we continue to grow.
Shit.
Yeah, we continue to grow over time. And then you have elements that move you in one direction versus the other, such as kids, relationships, things like that, dogs or cats. But I do think it's important to reflect and see where the positivity was this year, and say, all right, this is the person that I am, or the person that I was within 2020. How do I make that person adapt in a sustainable way to achieve these goals that I have set for 2021? And it might be something that might not get accomplished until like a couple of years, but each step that you make in that direction will help ultimately accomplish that goal. But people just get tricked up on, I need to do this by that, and then they just try to rush the process all the time.
Yeah, and ultimately it's often the perceived thought of being pressured into something. And I think you guys both make good points of, you can definitely use the turn of the year to highlight and reflect back on things that you did do well. 2020 was a very difficult year for almost everyone, and that's certainly something that I've spoken to some clients or people about, is like, yeah, it was a very difficult year, but some positives came out of it. And without, like you said, Angel, sounding too corny, I think everything happens for a reason, and there was definitely some positives that came out of 2020. And personally, I worked on gymnastics rings, which, because to do something all different with minor equipment, that's something that forced me to do something all different. And then, if we go back to goals and what things work well, I think it's good to dissect those things where, okay, last time, let's say if you're anyone who's had a New Year's resolution of joining the gym or working out, and something that commonly discussed what the theme of is when someone's new to joining, to not burn out, because you want to do something real quick and you put a bit of weight on over Christmas, and it's not a sexy response, but guess what? It's going to take time and consistency. And that's usually the answer to fix a lot of long-term goals, whether it's weight loss, whether it's strength, whether it's rehabilitation. It's just time and consistency. And the point I make with some of these conversations is, I'd rather someone start doing 2 to 3 days a week for the first 6 months if they have never worked out in their life before, as opposed to someone who crushed the gym 7 days a week for a month and they stop. You've worked out 28 days compared to 2 to 3 days for 6 months. You can definitely point out, as anyone can point out, which one's made the better lifestyle change and the habit. And it's the same with food. Can we agree that if you spoke to someone about modifying the nutrition or something, but there has to be a reality as well, where you can, when people speak about, oh, I was my happiest at this certain weight, were you feeling happy? Were you more aesthetically pleased with how you look like, but you weren't emotionally happy? There has to be that accountability, where knowing how happy you were during a time period, or what the association with that weight is. I think that's sometimes one of the biggest barriers with some clients is, oh, I'm happy to this weight. What if that number was higher, but you look better? Then no one has that thought process. It's always, that number's higher, I'm heavier or I'm bigger. It's never, and I've often seen this with some females, and they've post transformations. And this is really big for that stigma with some females that assume that weight means gaining fat, where let's say it's the same athlete or same female, and she shows herself a year or two apart, whatever, and she's 100%, and this is my opinion, looks better in the more recent picture, but she weighs more. And I love that they do that in the sense that they just show that just because you weigh more, that there's not necessarily a negative thing or the connotations that are associated with it. It's the, I feel better, I feel stronger. And again, like I said, my personal opinion, you look better. But sometimes it's understanding what the association with that, being stuck on that goal, that weight goal is. And I just think taking the time to understand to have the conversation with the person, or understand what the association is. Before I ramble too far on again, what I was trying to get at was just being reasonable with the food choices. If you say, oh, this year I'm going to cut out, it's a little frustrating when someone says, oh no, carbs are bad. Nah, man, you're fine. Consume carbs. If you have a whole loaf, it's really empty carbs. If you have a whole loaf of bread every day, we got a problem. Yes. But, it's one of those. Before I go on again, guys.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop the truck there. But you did have some good points in there too. I think that one of the key takeaways that I got from it was the fact that you might feel that you look better, or you felt happier during a certain point in time, or you felt happier at a certain point in time when you were at a certain weight. But was that because you felt better, or was that because you were receiving a lot of compliments? There's that stuff.
That's why I'm always iffy on the progress pics. It's kind of like,
it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, it
could be hit and miss depending. Yeah,
it could be hit or miss. Sometimes you got to read the caption, because then they'll trick you.
No one got time for that.
They like reading the caption. It's like, oh, look at this, look at that, and then I'm actually happier at my heavier weight or something like that. Or what this picture doesn't show is my strength gains or something like that. So that's, did I freeze? I think I froze. Hang on. So I almost forgot what I was talking about. But to David's point, sometimes they try to trick you with posting those progress pictures. And then they're like, what these progress pictures don't show is that I had X amount of strength gains. Or I feel I feel more confident at my heavier weight. But I also can speak from some experience, is that sometimes you feel like you look better because you receive those compliments, and it's not necessarily the best time, the time where you feel the best about yourself. So I can say from my experience, I know when we were going to Mexico, I wanted to look right for Mexico. So I cut up a little bit, did my thing, lowered the carbs, supplemented, because I eat a ton of rice. I think Ed told me, he's Chinese, he was like, you eat more rice than a Chinaman. So I cut carbs quite literally. I supplemented with spinach and things like that to fill the plate, and I honestly felt better because of that. But I also started losing some pounds here and there, and of course it's only minimal, right? Because if I lose more than 5 pounds, I'm probably dead. But
I was gonna say, where the fuck are you losing weight from, Angel?
But yeah, right. But I looked right from Mexico. But when I was in Mexico, I was hungry. And I told myself, I was like, you're going to eat everything that you possibly can. So I was like, going in that regard. But I remember that I didn't feel great. Sure, I look great. Sure, the pictures came out great, but I did not.
That just begs the question, is it worth it?
What are you willing to give up?
Yeah, it depends. It depends for everybody. And I'm going to speak to one of the TRX coaches at Equinox, JP. What he did was he was preparing for a photo shoot, and he told his followers on Instagram that he was not going to cut or anything like that because of the photo shoot. I think he got like his haircut or something like that. Like he, shaped up a bit there, but he didn't do any modifications to his nutrition or movement because of the shoot. And I really respected that and his transparency with it, because when you go to a photo shoot, the implication is that you're supposed to look a certain way, look quote unquote your best. But that's not necessarily super sustainable. And then that's what they promote, right? Because then it promotes you looking quote unquote in your best, but you're not feeling well, you're not moving well, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well. And then it promotes that type of person, or it promotes that, I don't know how to say it, but that body type. And that's not necessarily sustainable. And people see that and people say, oh man, I want to get like you. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do this.
And that's when the resolutions die out, because they fucking start realizing that they can't look like a certain person, you know?
Yeah.
And then they're like, screw this, I'm not doing it anymore.
How much work it takes to look like that.
Yeah. Whenever someone comes to me or whenever people say I want to look like a certain person, it's kind of like, you know, you don't want to discourage yourself after like 4 weeks, you know, like nothing's going to happen in 4 weeks usually, in terms of if you want to get completely jacked and lean. And then some people just get discouraged after that and they don't want to do it anymore.
I think Angel, you want to go ahead? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it also depends on where the person is coming from too, because most people who are beginners, you're not going to do that, right? There's too many changes. There's too many small changes that need to occur for you to get that result. Other people who they've spent their life doing that, such as bodybuilders, actors, dancers, they could do it, but they also know the ramifications and the implications that it has most of the time, or maybe not most of the time. I don't know. I'm not in that world. Maybe Jacques could speak to, or maybe even Alex could speak to that point, right? Because she has an idea as to what dancers' mindset is when they have to prepare for a part, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of them know the long-term effects of that stuff.
So it's actually I got two things on that. First of all, when you said about the where someone's starting, it's a really interesting point you say. So I have a friend in the UK. I'll call him out. I don't care. He's a good friend of mine.
Are you from the UK, Jacques?
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. England's in a serious lockdown right now, and reached out to me, and we spoke about doing Zoom sessions in the past. And I reached out to me, said, "Dude, let's lock everything down. School's closed. Whatever." He's a teacher, whatever. He said, "Let's do something, set something up. Let's at least do like a 15-minute trial, see what we can do. Whatever." Sure. I was like, "All right, man. Sure thing. Send me a video of what you have." I've already sent him a previous link on equipment to get, like bands. Nothing. The next day, I was like, "You know, it's been 2 days. Let me call up." I said, "Hey, man, send what you got. Show me your space. Whatever." Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, nothing. Day after comes, nothing. So mentally, I don't think he's in the place to start. Right? It's I want to look good, but so that's an area of opportunity where someone should start once or twice a week, because and he's got a good athletic background. Like he's run a marathon and things of that nature. He's a good friend of mine. He doesn't mind if I call him out. The other thing you mentioned with he won't listen to this either probably.
No, say his government then. You saying he won't? You saying you're good friends? Just say
Richard. If you hear this, it's about time you start fucking training. Come on. No, the other thing is, Alex actually just got an offer for a show as well to start in February, which is awesome. I was surprised that in COVID they'd be doing this. So that being said, there's, I wouldn't say added incentive or motivation, but she only has a month before she starts auditions, right? So we've tightened a few things in the build up to this, and look, when we went grocery shopping last night, for example, when she asks my advice on some foods or drinks, so I personally only drink water, and I'm thankful that I only drink water. But she was asking about certain teas or what'd you call them? Not sodas.
Instagram's got a bunch of teas you could get, just pick and choose.
Oh, sparkling water. What do you call them again? You guys have a different name for them.
La Croix.
Yeah, but you have a name for them.
La Croix?
La Croix.
Whatever the brand, but flavored soda. Seltzer, that's the word I was looking for. I'm sorry, seltzer water. I couldn't phrase it.
Mineral water, sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't really drink anyway, but the point I was trying to make is she's asking me, she's like, "Oh, can I have this?" And I personally don't think that's going to make the difference between a goal or achieving a goal or not achieving it, just for argument's sake. But I think you can do without that, or I don't think that's needed. And look, without a seltzer, just like water.
That depends though, because everybody's we all know that everybody's different, but for
everyone's different.
Like I know if you give me 3 foods and you tell me to eat these 3 foods for a month, I can do that, no problem.
Yeah.
Some people will just bash their head into a wall.
Right. But and I agree, and it would be depressing if I had to do that as well, to eat the 3 foods only. But I think once you're familiar with the health and wellness industry or transformation, and adaptations, the longer you're in it, the more simple your variables are, the better, the clearer your path is. So that's just an example where I'm not saying, okay, those teas or those seltzer waters, they're not going to change the game and be detrimental.
They'll probably make you poop a lot.
They might make you poop a lot, but it's,
And
can
maybe
you go
acid
without?
reflux. A lot of seltzer isn't the greatest thing.
But yeah, that was all I was trying to say was it's interesting with certain dancers. I'm always about them doing strength training. And there's one guy somewhere on the Upper West Side. He was a dancer and he primarily focuses just on training dancers. And they do some pretty impressive stuff because you got to think they've got great range of motion, usually very good flexibility. So taking it up the extra level, it's quite interesting. It's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wonder about that stuff and creating stability through all degrees of range of motion. Because I sometimes see dancers do like some wild squats. David's mind would just be like blown.
I've trained dancers, and my biggest thing. No, I've trained dancers, and my biggest thing is sometimes I tell them, "All right, don't go that deep," because they have so much flexibility. They could go. They could get into super ranges of motion that are not even safe.
Yeah, but. Let's pivot because this is a good kind of like turning point. Let's pivot towards that powerlifting, lifting stuff. I think speaking about compound movements, squatting gets a lot of us excited, particularly David. So let's talk about lifting and powerlifting.
So first, the biggest difference between both of them is lifting is just people generally call lifting weightlifting. I think especially in Europe, I think every place other than the United States. Like weightlifting is generally lifting, but here they call them Olympic lifting because that's the guys in the onesies.
Because you change everything over here. You change how to say everything. That's why.
So Anyway, Jacques. So when the revolution happens, are you gonna fight with the winning side, or are you gonna stick with the losing side like before?
You want to know something interesting? I actually have my citizenship test at the end of the month. So depends when the revolution starts. No, I'm joking.
The first question: when was the coup?
There's a whole backstory to like the Civil War, right, where the French were using or trying to finance the revolution with the rebellion versus
I couldn't speak to that.
With England. I think there was something about that. Like a lot of different places didn't want Britain to win. They wanted,
no one wants them to win.
And then there was that whole thing, American-Spanish War and all that stuff. But anyway.
All right, so weightlifting or Olympic lifting is basically just two movements. It's the clean and jerk and the snatch. So clean and jerk is getting the barbell from the floor to your shoulders and then getting it from the shoulders over your head. Now, you could do it either like in a split motion, like a cheerleader, or you could just do it in a powerful motion just once. And then the snatch is getting it from the floor overhead in once. So there's no like second part. And then in powerlifting, you typically have bench, deadlift, squat. There's some, I think, federations or whatever that have overhead press. Like the Olympic lifting had the clean and press as well. So it's like clean and just a regular press. Damn. And then I think they stopped it because people would generally just lean back so much where you're technically just doing a bench press. Like legitimately, they would get so far back and they're pushing up. But I think the main thing I want to talk about is about warming up prior to the big lifts. Typically I enjoy doing some banded mobility stuff informally, and then just grab an empty barbell and just get through the motions, because I think especially when it comes to those lifts, it's generally not in a high repetition range, depending on where in your training cycle it is. But form is everything. I mean, technique is everything when it comes to those lifts, because it could make or break whether or not you're going to make the lift or not. And typically I've found that warming up with an empty barbell to do a clean or a snatch definitely helps a lot, because you're trying to pattern in the motion continuously with low weight. And this ties into also general strength training. Like you want to be able to do quality reps rather than doing higher repetitions and then having your form break. Right. And then, teaching yourself a bad movement pattern. That's kind of like where I'm at when it comes to warming up. Empty barbell, go with the movements, try to perfect every little portion of it. And then, gradually add weight. Now, when it comes to powerlifting, real quick, before we move on, it's like with powerlifting, it's generally just, rip the weight off the floor. Like just lift as heavy as you can. And that's when you have modifications that I've seen when people lift.
Interesting. Go ahead. Like what?
For example, I've seen in powerlifting when you deadlift, some people are doing either sumo style deadlift where their legs are wide and their hands are in between their hips, and conventional, which is the regular conventional way of doing a deadlift. And the difference there is, of course, in sumo you can lift a lot more, and that's only because the distance that the bar has to travel from the floor gets shortened dramatically. If you really think about it.
Shorter range of motion.
Exactly. And of course, that's why you see people doing shrugs with heavy ass weight, because the range of motion is about 1 inch, 2 inches. And that's basically how that works. And then you have people that round their thoracic spine. So that, what's this guy's name? Stuart McGill, the spine guy. He was talking about flexion in your T-spine with load is generally safer than flexing your lower back with load. So you have people that are basically deadlifting, rounding their thoracic spine, but keeping their lumbar still in the neutral position. And again, they can lift a lot more because when you round your T-spine, what happens? Your arms they don't get longer, but they're closer to the ground. Therefore, you could decrease the range of motion like that too,
Interesting. I didn't know that was the methodology behind that.
That's why a lot of powerlifters, they do that, and
for efficiency.
And it's completely different than when the people in the regular commercial gyms are doing the scared cat deadlift.
Oh yeah.
Where it's basically like a bow from bow and arrow. Like that's basically how they're just fucking up their back. And I've heard from people, and I'm not going to name anyone. I don't even remember this guy's name.
Unlike Richard. Richard's out there. Richard on the bus.
Richard's out there, man.
I don't even remember this guy's name. You
can call him Richard as well if you want.
Sure, okay, Richard. Right, so Richard, let's name this guy Richard, or Dick for short. So Richard, I'm sorry, Richard. I don't know you. I don't want to. I'm not gonna mess with you. Sorry. With this certain person, I overheard him saying to a client who was deadlifting not the greatest way, and the client said, my back and my spine, my lower back, it's burning, like I feel it. And then the trainer says, yeah, let's go, let's keep doing that, that's good. And I'm just like,
oh, I know this is.
and I tell my client that was next to me, I said, whatever he just said, he never heard it. He's like, all right, cool. He's like, that didn't look good either. But, I'm not trying to throw shade, but the thing is, when it comes to deadlifting, that's why you have this thing that a lot of people call the iron graveyard, right? Where it's like they throw these exercises into the negative pile of exercise that you should never, ever do. And a lot of people put deadlifts there, put squats there, because they're not doing it right. And that's the only reason. Like deadlifts, squatting, they're great exercises if you're doing them right. If you're doing them wrong, then you're gonna fuck yourself up, and that's when I think education plays a role in it. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I don't want to ramble on.
No. I was gonna say was often when a client, like me, and shit, I'm Richard again. Often when I meet a new client for the first time and we speak about programming or training and what's hurt and what hasn't, and when they say I don't deadlift because it's hurt my back in the past, or squats, or when they say, let's say, leg press because it's hurt my back, my first things are like, yes, we're going to get you to squat. And I'm going to take you away from the leg press and deadlifting. Let's look at how your elevated sumo kettlebell deadlift looks. What I mean by elevated sumo deadlift, I mean that it's on a block or two, maybe on some risers, and you're pulling from between the kettlebell's placed on the risers or the yoga blocks. And so you've shortened your range of motion that you're pulling from. And that's usually how I start with most people, how they deadlift, actually. So when someone comes to me and says, oh, I've had pain, those are the first two. I did want to ask you, though, you might have touched on it, the bench press. You mentioned about deadlifting where there's a rounding the T-spine because you shorten the length of the pull that you have to go with the bar, right? So now when people are bench pressing and they arch their back,
it's the same thing.
It's so to travel.
You're basically
to the bar,
doing a decline press,
right? And so is it just that you can, in theory, press more because the bar's traveling a shorter distance? That's the idea of doing it?
That's basically what it is. But, I'm not saying that every single powerlifter does this. I've been to Tommy Tui, right? He did a meet last year. Tommy Tui's. He did his powerlifting meet where I went, and rarely, maybe let's say out of 10 lifters, I maybe saw 2 or 3 that had an excessive hyperextended back doing the bench. So I'm not saying that everybody does it, but
it's like where their chin is like touching their collarbone.
Basically,
so
you're here.
extended.
Yeah, you're here, and then you're arching your lower back super high. Yeah. So that when you bench, the bar, instead of going directly over your shoulders, it kind of like goes down.
Right, and it covers like the average range of motion will probably be like a difference between like 5 inches or so, right?
Yeah, it could be huge. Yeah, because they would really flare their ribs up really high, and then when they bring the bar down, they touch it right below the nipple line,
like on the sternum or something like that.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Personally, I think you miss out on a lot of benefits from it, but I've seen this 13. I don't know if you guys saw years ago. There's this 13-year-old Russian powerlifter. She was 13 years old, and there was videos everywhere saying she broke the record and benching, great. I'm like, I gotta watch this. Like, I gotta see this. So I click on, and it's like she was doing basically a back bend on the bench, and she put her neck and like her traps on the bar. Those were the only points of contact: her neck and the traps, and like her hamstring butt area. Like, it wasn't even her entire glutes on the bench.
That's crazy. So her hips
so
were up
it was
too.
like this. I kid you not.
That's
and
crazy.
And she had a really wide. So legitimately, the bar just went like.
Well, they say, right? And that's the thing. Like, they allow certain things, and maybe that's why. I mean, I won't make an argument for O-lifting versus powerlifting because I don't O-lift, but I would like to O-lift, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But
fix them ankles.
It's one of those things where powerlifting can almost accept more or has more wiggle room to accept stuff and not accept stuff versus O-lifting, because O-lifting, it's like it has to be over your head and you have to like, lock out.
Elbows have to lock out. Yeah.
Right. It's in relationship to the joints as a well, I guess powerlifting is the same thing, right? Like, you're bending at the elbows or whatever to touch the sternum, and you need to have like 5 points of contact, but there's more ways in order to get that weight to do that than just like it is in O-lifting. Because in O-lifting, if you try to do something like that, similar to what you were speaking about with the clean and press, you can end up messing up your back really a lot by overextending or your shoulders. I mean, you could just bang everything up. You could just drop the bar on yourself.
Yeah.
Game over.
I've dropped the bar on my back before. It's the worst fucking feeling. I remember it was at one of the locations that had the platforms. They had like the playground downstairs.
Yeah.
And I was doing my snatches, and I think I snatched like 180 something, but I didn't. This was like early into my like lifting stuff, and like didn't lock it out properly. So the bar was gonna fall back. And the way you dump the bar, if the bar when you do a snatch, if the bar's in front of you, you just dump it. But if it's behind you, you gotta like throw it back and throw your body forward.
You have to throw it back, and that's probably hard to do.
Like, you're coming up here, and then you see the bar still travels behind you. You just let it go, and then your body goes forward. So the bar goes behind you, you go forward. And I guess I didn't do it fast enough or something. So the bar landed on my lower back. Like, I was thinking about, like, I'm squatting and I'm like leaning forward, trying to like throw myself forward, and the bar lands right on my lower back. So I'm on the floor for like 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes, because nothing hurt or anything, but I just felt the initial contact, and I'm just like, okay, let me just not move for like a little bit, and then I'm like wiggling around. I'm like, okay,
that's smart.
I think I'm all right, cool. I get up, and I went even harder because I'm an idiot, and I had one of the best workouts ever. But then the next couple of days, I was sore as fuck. I couldn't like roll out or anything because it would hurt a lot.
That was one of those.
But
I was gonna say, like, there should be almost a workbook for starting in the gym, things that you should avoid. And maybe O-lifting, like straight out the gate, like, yo, I need to drop this weight, I'm gonna just start O-lifting everything. Probably not. And then like safety things around it. If you are gonna drop the bar behind you, you need to step forward or something like that.
Yeah, and if anything,
don't lift heavier after it hits your back.
And if you're listening and you go into a gym where you have people that are O-lifting, try not to walk in front of them or behind them.
Oh my God.
I hate especially when they're doing the lifts, because it's first it'll distract the actual lifter.
Mm.
And second, you could hurt yourself if they don't know that you're there and you just happen to walk forward, right? And it's
Sure.
like, but anyway, so, and then in powerlifting, you also have different types of meets where you have different number plies of their onesies. You have multiply and single ply.
Mm-hmm.
Single ply is like a regular onesie, right? They you wear, you work it out, but then you have multiply where you need to have a team of 3 people help you put on this fucking suit.
What?
Are you serious?
Well, you butt naked? You butt naked and they got to
No, you have clothes on, but you still have to put
I don't
it
believe
on.
you.
Nah, you just
Jock likes that stuff.
cheeks.
So, basically it's like you need a team of people to help you put this shit on because it's Velcro in a way. It's kind of like Velcro and it's so rigid.
Who was there? Keith?
Huh?
Keith was there helping you out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, oh my gosh, shit, help me out.
Oh my God.
So, basically you need help putting the shit on. And because when you're benching, as you come down, you have your own stretch reflex, but this thing is so tight that it's stretching into the point where it wants to get back into a natural form. So it helps you push the weight up even more.
Oh, interesting. Like a slingshot almost.
Yeah, basically that's what it is. Yeah. Slingshot for your entire body because it also does it when you squat.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Don't go into the images. But I was gonna say I'm surprised that more people don't wear that stuff, and you see that in the gym, right? Because I think in the gym we see some pretty ridiculous outfits. But
there's
I
one dude that wears his onesie.
Oh yeah,
he was there
like
yesterday. He wears his onesie when he does his powerlifting shit.
Is he good or?
He wears a mouth guard too.
How can you tell with a mask? You see his mouth guard?
No, this is before masks.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's crazy. My dentist recommended me to get the dental guard for when I lift. I said, nah.
Damn.
They're like, but David, it could help you. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, dentists low key try to like fuck with you a little bit.
They try to make you my recent dentist was saying, oh, you should do Invisalign. Is it cover insurance? No. I'm like, whoa. How much is it? Anywhere between $3 and $5 grand a year or something, or 12 months or something. I'm thinking.
It's expensive. Invisalign is really expensive.
That conversation's over ASAP.
But anyway, so yeah, that's basically like the whole powerlifting stuff, and
we gotta revisit it because I do have some more questions about that. And I just got the independent stands, so I started doing back squats and bench press. It's been a while since I've done any of that, and kind of speaking to 2 points. So speaking to Jacques' point about knowing when you are biting off more than you can chew and being smart about being in the gym and just not attempting things that you're not physically capable of. Sometimes, you know how, like, if you're thinking about 2 independent squat stands, you got the bar, it's loaded. I only have 135 here right now, but more is coming in. But if I'm going, if I want to deload the weight and then rack it back up, let's say I'm going from flat bench to squat, right? I got to bring the bar off, and then I have to raise the risers, and then I have to put it back. I was like, man, I could just drop the weight and then like clean this shit and then just rack it.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, like I haven't spent time working with a bar in over 8 months, I'm not going to do the math, but almost pretty much a year, 10 months probably. Yeah. 10 months.
Yeah. Almost a year now. And
like I thought about it and I was like, nah, I'm not going to, cause then at the same time you're home, you're by yourself, right? Nobody's going to help you. You're just going to be on the floor. If you die, you die. The Apple Watch, hopefully that's
isn't your super on your floor though?
Yes, but I'm
you
not.
You shout loud enough. Help.
Yeah, right. Help.
Half mangled on the floor.
Kick you out. They're like, why do you have a gym in your fucking apartment?
Listen, man, you just gotta set it up right. I've moved enough stuff throughout the past couple of years that I know how to make it, or I think I know how to make it work well. Who knows?
You still have that big couch in the living room?
Yeah, we're debating on getting rid of it. So it's
really?
Yeah, it's a whole situation because we would have more space if we got rid of that. We're not having anybody here.
Yeah.
We're not having anybody here for like, I don't know how many, 5-6 months at least. So we're just rethinking things. But I used cardboard. So some of the boxes that you get and stuff like that, I put tape around the edges so that way it doesn't shed. And then I put the independent stands on top of that. So instead of actually having to lift it, because each weighs about like 70 to 80 pounds, because it has like little pellets at the bottom, I just drag it, and it works really
smart.
well. Anybody who's ever moved any heavy furniture knows that that's the way you do it. You take
Gliding it.
Yeah, you glide it. You don't drag it. And it makes things a lot easier. I did the same thing with my power blocks as well, and it seems to work out well.
My parents, especially my dad, is like, pick it up. We ain't dragging this shit. I'm like, but it's heavy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because we have
pick it up.
floors. I don't know. I would.
Yeah, we have 1 floors too.
So I'm thinking about what the next, like how to optimize space when the plates come in, when the other plates start coming in. Speaking to which, ISL Fitness, based out of New Jersey. Got to give these guys a shout out because they set everything up, made it really easy to pick up, and they've been very responsive. So like right when you fill out the whatever you're trying to buy, typically the guy will just text you and be like, your stuff is ready. When do you want to pick it up? So they're pretty responsive, just in case people are looking for barbells, plates, squat stands, things like that. Kettlebells.
Send me that again, because I have an old client who was just asking me about it, and I suggested Rogue, and he said, "Oh man, Rogue is something." So send that to me after this. So I gotta forward it to him.
Yeah, sounds good. And if you make like bulk purchases, I sell fitness. I sell
fitness. ISL. Okay.
Yeah. So, and they're based out of Totowa, New Jersey. So it's like, I guess like 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away. So if you make
this guy's in Jersey as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier because then you could just like pick up stuff as opposed to having to ship it, which might arguably be more expensive if you actually rent a car, if you don't have a car or a truck or something like that. But anyway, kind of to round us out. Oh, I did want to ask David this, and I'll ask it on air because I'm sure other people have this question. So I think we spoke about this before, but Vivo Barefoot versus Noble. I'm starting to work out at home, obviously, right? Just spoke about that in depth. But one of the things that I don't want to do is work out in my ashy feet. So I put socks on, and I want to have some kicks to go with it. So what do you recommend for some
moisturizer?
First, you need some fucking shea butter.
Yeah, for real.
That's your first step.
Got a 1-250 live right there.
No, I got
you're at it.
I got shea butter.
Well, the thing with the Noble, I've had 2 pair of Noble shoes when they I don't know how it is now. I got these pair when they were first, like, because they've been out for what, let's say 5 years.
Yeah,
I think so.
6 years.
Yeah.
I think I bought it when they were like on their 2nd year of like to start, and I personally didn't like those shoes. I mean, I wouldn't even wear them to train or work out in. I would wear them just to train people in, and like the soles would start coming out. So basically, I didn't have a good experience with it.
Wow.
I don't know how they are now. I'm sure they're better quality now, I assume. But if you get a flat shoe, then I think any flat shoe would help. You can get a pair of Chuck Taylors. You can get, regular Vans or whatever, or the Vivo Barefoot, I think are great because it's a lot flatter than those. So you could get more contact with the ground. I have a pair of the Vivo ones.
I'm trying to do something that's like you work out and then you also train clients, because I train some of my clients virtually, and they're doing they have their own workout shoes in their apartment, things like that, and I just want something maybe I could walk around in, and then something I could also train in, just to make it look.
Then I would suggest the Noble then, because the Vivo, in my opinion, unless you go on the Vivo website and look at all their shoes, you could get a pair that's like hybrid, where you could get for working out and for walking around. The ones I have are for working out. I mean, I'm at the gym already, so I just keep them on to like walk around. But if you want to walk from one client to the next or whatever, I wouldn't recommend getting the really, really thin ones. They have other ones that are more versatile. But if you don't want to go through that, just get a pair of Noble sneakers. They can help a lot. But one thing that I do have, there's this company called Pedestal Footwear. And they sell these Pedestal Footwear socks that have grips on the bottom. So it's basically socks, and you could wear them at home because you won't be sliding everywhere because they have little grippies at the bottom of it. So I've had a pair like that too. Hospital socks. I guess, yeah.
Hospital socks are the weirdest, most uncomfortable things ever, but
no, I have a pair of Pedestal Footwear socks, and they're great. I think walking around in the wooden floors, it makes it a lot easier. I was walking around them at the gym, and the floor in the gym is the socks grip the little parts of the floor, of the rubber floor and the coating, so they fuck up your socks. But I would suggest getting a pair of Nobles. I think those are cool.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to ask that just because I know some people might have the same question, and I do have some.
In general, I think for lifting, if you just want to lift, I think a pair of Chuck Taylors, a regular pair of Vans, the Vivo Barefoot, I think those will help a
Metcons
lot.
as well,
Metcons, some of the Metcons. I mean, some of the Metcons are very, they could even be a little wobbly. I've had a pair of Metcons. I had the Metcons too, but the last Metcons I've ever bought. I thought they were the best ones, honestly.
I got the twos. I got a few of the twos.
These are cool. Jacques has like a whole arsenal of them.
I got a couple of ones.
That's what I wore today. I wore
twos.
I wore the Metcons because I'm trying to. Yeah, I wore the Metcons. The thing is, like, sometimes they're a little bit like, they are super flat, or they're flat for me. I mean, so I'm not used to it. So when I'm training my clients, I'm like, do this. All of a sudden, my foot isn't moving. You know what I mean? You know when your body moves, but your foot's just like planted. So then that's why I guess I was asking for a hybrid. Nah, you do like that stutter step for no reason.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
No, but yeah. So then do that. Get the Nobles because you can just go in and work out with them.
Okay, cool.
But I would say their Metcons do have hybrids as well. They have the regular Metcon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then they have the Metcon DSX or Metcon something else, which are XD, whatever. They're like hybrids of the
new Metcons that came out with the sole that's like 5 inches high. Have you seen those?
The 5s? Because they came out with the 6.
The newish Metcons. I don't know. They're called the Nike Trainings or something like that.
So those are they got like the very high wedge. The heel's quite thick.
Very high, huge sole. Yeah.
Possibly
at least
not
it
the
looks
nice
big from the outside. Maybe on the inside it just goes, I don't know.
But not the nicest looking sneaker there is, right?
I think they're cool. I think they look nice.
I think if the ones you're talking about, for example, is a hybrid of, I see people deadlifting and squatting them, and I personally wouldn't, but that's just me. But yeah,
cool. All right, let's round this out by talking a little bit on activities of daily living. So I just wanted to speak on this because I had a couple of clients who are 65 and up. Obviously, a lot of people do. I think that's kind of the range, 50-ish or like 45-ish and up. Where you have a lot of personal training clients, and activities of daily living go a long way when it comes to function and building resilience through longevity. So those things include eating, bathing, dressing, grooming, mobility, toileting, and continence. So the reason why it's important is because as we get older, a lot of people start to struggle with that stuff. And it sounds kind of silly and it sounds kind of, basic. But after, I'm going to try to read a statistic, so bear with me. But for people who are 65 and older, apparently 42% reported some sort of functional limitation in achieving these activities of daily living. So, and then another statistic is that 18% had difficulty with at least 1 to 2 activities of daily living, and that's at 65. So I think it's important for us to address these things as we continue to train our clients. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to have like an age limit on it, right? So it doesn't have to be, if you're 40, you should be looking at this, but we should always have that in our sights, because at the end of the day, if the goal is health and wellness and functionality, if you can't tie your shoes, or you can't, put on a coat or put on a jacket, or, whatever it is, use the restroom properly, it becomes an issue that we need to address sooner than later. So it's probably better to have those maybe not those conversations, but actually, yeah, you know what? We're all adults. We can have conversations around this stuff. Actually, speaking to Holly's point as well, because I think Holly was talking about in one of the previous episodes, continence, right? Or incontinence, and training the postpartum client. So, these are things that we do need to talk about. Things that do need to be addressed, and whether your clients are explicit in how they need their needs to be addressed or not explicit, we should be able to have those conversations with them. That's all. That's it. That's all I kind of wanted to say.
One of the biggest things with that, I think, a lot of it has to do with, I think, just the industry of how it is when trying to treat people that are that old. I mean, not that old, but older. They, you don't want to discourage them to not doing anything. You don't want to discourage them into don't do that. Don't walk too fast. I mean, you need to encourage them to keep moving. And then I think it comes from teaching people from an earlier age to do things correctly, you know, be mindful of how they're doing certain things, work out, lift weights, because that'll help them in the long run, especially when they're 80, 90, you know.
Yeah, lifting the knees up to walk, that's a big thing. That's huge. And I start to see that in some of my clients who are in their 40s. They'll just drag their feet, and then that becomes a habit. You put 20 years on that, and then all of a sudden they can't
they can't
do
move.
stuff. Or balance as well, right? How many people can just like balance on one foot for 30
Or they're
seconds?
given walkers. I mean, the walker itself will make them hunch forward even more.
Yeah.
And not, I mean, because when they get older, their center of gravity starts to shift forward, which is why you see a lot of older people just hunch over and like walk in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you have crutches. You're someone in your 20s. You have crutches for 2 weeks. That change your posture for a long time as well. Someone who's been building habits for years. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something that needs to be addressed, something that just, you know, as we continue throughout the year and we look at our clients, and our clients come in with these goals of, I want to run the New York City Marathon, or I want to be able to box jump over David. You got to start.
That high.
In which order?
I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'8".
It's just something to be mindful of. And then functionality of everything, you know, that becomes a topic that we're all starting to understand. I know that we got to wrap up soon. So let's wrap this up now. Guys, if you have anything else you want to add, feel free to throw it out there.
Actually, does anyone here, I got a couple minutes, but does anyone here have any personal or performance goals they have for 2021? Even though I'm just saying how I think it's never the new thing. I was like, it's the same year.
I just want to get, that's funny, but I want to get my strength back. I just want to be able to bench press at least 225 for 10. You know, I want to get back to squatting barbell at least 225 for 15. Things like that. Like I haven't touched the barbell in a long time, and I think that for at least 4 years, I've been using barbell training pretty frequently. So for me, it's been a long time away. I think kettlebells I started touching maybe for like 1 to 2 years. You know, dumbbells been using since, you know, I don't know, I was in high school. But barbells are something that I've noticed the biggest amount of change in the shortest amount of time with, and I really want to get back to being strong again.
Nice. What are you, David?
I just want to be able to squat 385 again and deadlift 400. The COVID stuff really fucked that up. And then, I mean, there are no Olympic lifting meets. And
for a while,
the next thing is like in Philly and Pennsylvania, and I'm not going to travel for that. So
don't even get me started on those teams.
Record, so that was good. I mean, just since October till now, I added 45 pounds to my bench.
Nice.
You know,
that's awesome.
That was good. I was able to break my bench PR, so that was good. So now I'm doing more. Now I'm not gonna do as heavy for like the next 4 weeks. I'm just gonna start with like sets of 8. Trying to build some hypertrophy, and we'll see.
Nice.
What about you, Jacques?
I think I just need to. I just want to improve on probably 3 things. One is doing more reps of ring muscle ups, so I can maybe do 2 or 3 in a row to try and do ultimately 10 in a row one day, but I think at least get 5. I think I don't think I've ever gone to squat past 275, so maybe get more towards 300. And then something I'd love to do is, you know, people can do inverted presses, let's say against a wall, for example. Mm-hmm. So I gotta figure out how I do this, but I want to try and do it with rings, so inverted presses. Because I think that the one thing I've noticed in the small amount of doing it I've done is when you do an inverted push-up from the ground, when your head gets to, you stop the press here, right? And I typically don't feel too strong pushing from here. Whereas from here, I feel a little bit stronger. It mimics more an overhead press, it makes more bench press. So there's not too many patterns that I mimic that push from here. So I think I'm going to make sure that I get the strength from the rings and try and do ring inverted presses. But those are the 3 goals I probably have, yeah.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, I did want to make mention to one thing. I forgot, but I remembered as you guys were talking. I started listening to a book by, I think it's Brett Bartholomew. I think it's like Conscious
Yeah.
Coaching. I know the book
I've
is
had that
called
book and I
Conscious
lost
Coaching.
it.
So
Essentially,
it's funny
good book.
because Brendan hit me up. I put it on IG that I was listening to, and Brendan was like, "How is it?" And I was like, "It's okay." They're talking about like don't be an asshole, pretty much.
Get to
Like,
the
don't be a dick.
archetype part yet?
So that's the part that I'm at right now, or the part that I just passed. And it's interesting because of 2 points. One point is that Jacques and I, when we did our TRX curriculum, we did one of those assessments. We did the DISC assessment. So it's learning about what kind of coach you are, and then also what kind of coaches your team is in a general sense. I think they speak specifically to the DISC assessment. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think it was gauging your personality as it reflects to you, not as it reflects to others. So gauging your personality on a scale and trying to quantify and measure that against yourself, and then also how you would deal with certain situations. And that helps because it helps you understand as a coach when you're getting into certain situations. Let's say a client says, I want to lose like 50 pounds in 3 months. How do you deal with that? Right? And what kind of coach are you? And learning about your strengths and your weaknesses is very important, because then you'll be able to understand when A, something is out of your league, but B, also how to address it and meet the client where they are, and then help them get through whatever they're going through. So I say all that to say this book is getting more interesting as I continue to read, so I'm not going to dismiss it yet. I do think that at first it kind of seemed like just don't be a dick, like be receptive and your clients will follow through. But it also reminded me when we started doing the Tier X assessment or the Tier X curriculum, that your clients do have an opportunity to give you feedback if you give them that opportunity. And this year, what I started to do, at least like in the past couple of weeks, is ask them, hey, I would like some feedback from you. How did you feel that how would you represent, if you were to gauge how I coached you throughout this year, what number would you give me, and then why? And then also, what goals are you trying to hit, and how can I help you reach those goals? How can I maximize those results for you outside of just like programming, right? Because I think programming is probably the first thing. But some of my clients have given me some pretty interesting feedback. Some people have said, hey, every time we start our session, ask me what I ate the week prior. He's like, I know that it sounds like it's something that's going to nag me, but it helps me feel accountable for or grow accountability for the things that I consume throughout the week. And I don't like to do that because I don't want them to feel like they need to lie to me or feel like they should feel bad about the things that they eat. However, this is a grown man, and this grown man is telling me this is what I would like. I spoke to him about why I don't like that train of thought, but he said that for him, that's the most constructive sort of feedback when it comes to nutrition. He says if you don't ask that question, nobody else is asking that question, and he'll just go off the rails. So anyway, just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I think this year kind of helps us, or the new year kind of helps us have those conversations with our clients about resetting goals or establishing new goals, and then also give you feedback for your coaching style. And it gives you the opportunity to learn who you are as a coach and how you can be better.
That's cool. I should send that to us as well as the store.
Fitness.
Yeah, send us a link to that book as well, because that's something I need to do more of as reading in general. So I can definitely benefit from that.
Audible helps.
Because I'm listening to podcasts all the time. So
yeah, I'm working on the plug. All right, like, subscribe, YouTube, all that stuff. Follow David Bravo at his handle.
You remember this time, David?
D_Bravo_coach.
There you go, D_Bravo_coach. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See y'all later.
Yeah, good.